At some point in time in your life, you need to stop asking, what do I need to do differently, long enough to ask, who have I become? Because maybe the next strategy in your life that you need isn't another strategy. Maybe it's not another book, another podcast. Maybe it's not another diet, another job, or another relationship. And maybe it's not another coach telling you 5 things you need to do before 5 a.m. Maybe before you do anything else, you need to address the person who's going to be doing all of it. That's the person that's in the mirror. Because if you think about it, you've changed jobs. Maybe you've changed the goal, changed your normal routine, changed the relationship, told yourself you changed the environment. Monday, I'm starting all over again. Maybe I'm going to do it better when I get the promotion. When things finally slow down, then I'll be able to become the person that I know I'm capable of becoming. But everywhere you've gone, there's been one variable that's traveled with you. You. Now, hear me closely when I say this. I'm not in any way, shape, form, or fashion saying that you're the problem. I'm just saying that you're the variable present in every version of your life. And eventually, we have to become willing to examine that variable. Because there's so many people right now who genuinely do not know how to get themselves out of the position that they're in. And I don't think it's always because they're unsure of who they are. I don't think it's because they don't want it bad enough, as many people will say. I don't even think it's because they don't know how to do it. Sometimes it's because they've just never developed enough awareness to understand what's actually happening underneath the thing that they're doing. And you can't change what you refuse to examine. You have to be willing to do the hard thing. This is where the fix begins, not with fixing yourself, but with how you see yourself. Because those are the things that people don't want to do. A lot of us don't actually see ourselves. We see our responsibilities. We see our work schedules. We see our jobs. We see people who need things from us. We see the bills on the counter in the evening, the jobs. We see what everybody else is doing online. But when was the last time you actually stopped long enough to be able to see yourself beyond your titles and your position? When is the last time you didn't see yourself as the father or the husband or the leader or the employee or the entrepreneur, the coach, or whatever the role is that you actually have to live in every single day? Who is that person underneath all of that? And ask that hard question, who have you become? What do I believe now? What am I afraid of chasing? What am I avoiding? What are you tolerating? What did you say you would do 5 years ago that you haven't done? What have you normalized now because you've been living with it for so long? This is the level of awareness that I think people are uncomfortable with. This is why I think people don't face the mirror. I think this is why people run, because they become professionals at distraction. We've got this incredible tool that we use to help us get away from the pain. We don't have to sit with ourselves anymore. There's always something else for us to do. There's always another dance for me to learn, something else for me to buy, somebody else for me to argue with online, somebody else for me to compare myself with, some notification pinging, demanding my attention. And now I'm all off course chasing another goal. And then we convince ourselves about things that we need. Sometimes we call it productivity. But sometimes we're just avoiding being alone and not doing the things that we know we need to do. There's a line I wrote in Elevation Requires Change that says, when you identify your distractions, you identify the root cause of your inaction. And I want you to think about that, because distraction isn't always the root. Sometimes distraction is the cover. And if you want to understand what's underneath the cover, eventually you have to start digging. And digging is hard, because digging creates a level of discomfort that people aren't used to. It requires you to admit something. It requires you to admit that maybe there might be something beneath the surface that I should be examining. And some of us don't know what's down there. Because what if I start digging and I find hurt? What if I start digging and I find that fear or the insecurity? What if I start finding that I've been procrastinating on something for 3 years because I'm too terrified to find out if I'm good enough? What if I discover that the career that I've been chasing isn't actually what I want if I start digging? What if I realize that I spent years trying to prove something to people who aren't even paying attention to me anymore? What if I realize that some of the things I call just who I am aren't who I am at all? These are learned behaviors, things I've adapted to, things that helped me survive one season of my life that I don't need anymore. Maybe they are just some expectations and some stories that I've repeated for so long, I don't even question if it's real or not anymore. You see, digging can change what you believe about yourself. Because once you see something, I talk about exposure, it is difficult to unsee it. But there's another reason why people don't dig. People don't dig because it takes work. And you can't just look at the ground and something and dirt come up. You got to get down. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to get your knees dirty. You got to get your pants dirty. And if you're unwilling to dig, sometimes it's because you don't have the right tools. Look, before I go any deeper, if you're new here, my name is Demias, and welcome to Elevation Requires Change. This is a place where I'm asking you to come as you are. I want you to come with an empty cup, being ready and willing to have it filled. Come willing to challenge yourself about any beliefs that you may have about yourself and what you think is possible for your life. You know, I spent 22 and a half years of my life serving the United States Marine Corps. And in this season of my life, I want to serve people. I want to serve you, and I want to help you break through barriers, break through plateaus, and challenge the stories that may have kept you stuck. More importantly, I want to help you begin reconstructing the identity that you have about yourself one day at a time so you can become the capable person that you know you are. So if this is the kind of work that you're willing to do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if something I'm saying is making you think about your own life differently, listen, I want you to share this with somebody else so we can get this in front of as many people as possible. Now, if you're ready for this, let's go deeper. You know, situated in the middle of the Pacific is a place called the Mariana Trench, specifically a portion called the Challenger Deep. You know, when explorers went to see what was there, the first time they went down there, they didn't have the tools necessary to go deep enough. And they thought it was roughly 18,000 feet. So they resurfaced, went back, took all of their data, collected all over again, and then they said, now we're ready to go deeper. And they came back to the Mariana Trench, and this time they went in even deeper. And they said it was over 19,000 feet deep. And while they were down there this time, they discovered all types of species, and they went back up and they reported it. And if you fast forward, now they say that if you were to take Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, and you were to take it and you were to sit it at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, it is said that there will be more than a mile of water on top of it. Now, why am I sharing that with you? I'm sharing that with you is because so many of us are afraid to dive deep because just like those explorers did when they dove deep, it was about the things that they found. Some of those things that they found down there were scary. And you don't want to do the digging because of the things that could possibly be down there for you. So when you think about this from the human being perspective, this is what people can see with you. They see your career, they see your habits, they see your accomplishments, your reputation, they see your social media, your IG, your LinkedIn, they see your title. But that's just the surface. And there's so much more beneath the surface. There's so much more that you know that's beneath the surface. Your beliefs, your experiences, the expectations that you have for yourself. There are the wounds that you have. There are also the successes that nobody knows about. There are words that somebody has spoken over your life that you still carry with you from over 20 years ago. There are also promises that you made to yourself down there, definitions of success that you never constantly chose. There are things that you are still trying to prove down there. And that, for me, is one of the greatest problems. Most of us are trying to fix something that's 7 miles deep by rearranging the things that are happening on the surface. And that's why another planner won't work for you. That's why another motivational video won't work for you. That's why a job change won't work for you. And that's why making more money doesn't automatically fix it. None of those things are going to fix something that's an intangible. That's why accomplishing the new goal, you may, you know what, satisfied, feel great, celebrated on the surface, but you still don't feel good because the thing that you changed was what was happening around you and not the thing that was happening in you. You can't address a root from the surface. That's the thing that I need you to understand. When you're dealing with roots, you have to dig. Imagine looking at a tree that's dying. The leaves are turning brown, branches are breaking, fruit's no longer growing, and every morning you walk outside and paint the leaves green. You might think the tree looks good temporarily, and it might appear that way to other people, but you haven't healed anything because the leaves in themselves aren't the problem. They're evidence that a problem exists. The problem, once again, is underneath the ground. And that's what so many people are doing with their lives. They're walking around painting leaves, treating the symptoms, getting all of the tangible things, but never doing anything that requires deep work. They need to communicate better. But they're still avoiding conversations. They want a better job, but they're never applying. But before we start prescribing solutions, we need to become curious enough to ask what is beneath the surface. Because procrastination might be the leaf. Fear might be underneath it. Perfectionism might be a leaf. A belief that your worth you're worthless might be a leaf. Fear of rejection might be a leaf. There's so many things. Think about what's happening in your world and call that the leaf. And if you just keep cutting those leaves off without examining the roots, don't be surprised when the same leaves grow back. This is where I want you. This is where I want to leave you today with this. Before transformation, there needs to be a level of awareness because you need to know what you need to change and have the willingness to do so. And that requires a level of courage that you might not have. Because yes, there may be parts of yourself that you're not proud of, but there are things that you've accomplished. There are things that you also avoided, but you can make the better decision tomorrow. All of this is part of the person that is standing in that mirror. And I'm not asking you to hate that version of yourself. I'm asking that you meet that person where you are. Because maybe you've been so busy trying to become somebody else that you haven't stopped long enough to understand who you've already become. And before you decide who you're becoming next, you need an honest accounting of who is standing here now. And that's where we're going with this series. I want us to collectively to dive beneath the surface. We're going to talk about identity. We're going to talk about the stories that you've inherited. We're going to talk about the different roles that you live in and what achievement really looks like. I want us to discuss what it means to be the person that your future depends on. I want you to realize that you are somebody who is capable of carrying yourself into the next level. Your future may be requiring you to become someone different, but we can't start there. The first thing we need to do is we need to start with the person who's standing in the mirror. You got to be ready to face that person. So here's what I want you to do. At some point in time today, I want you to find a few minutes when nobody's asking and demanding anything from you, without your phone, without any external influences, no TV, no distractions, just you. And I want you to sit with one question. Who have I become? Not who do I want people to think I am, not who I was 10 years ago, but who have I become? And don't be in a rush to answer it. Sit with it, because the first answer will probably come from the surface. But I want you to see whether you're willing to go deeper or not. And if you're willing to go on that journey with me, again, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and follow this series, because this is only the beginning. And send this to somebody who's been doing everything they know how to do, but still feels like something isn't moving. Maybe they don't need another answer yet. Maybe they need a better question. And the question is where we're starting with this. Who have I become? I'll see y'all on the next one. Remember, elevation requires change. And sometimes the first change isn't changing what you do, it's becoming aware of who's doing it. Let's go.